you went ahead and took a shot with Justin Rose?
I do every tournament. You know that.
Every tournament you take. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he's my. I mean, it used to be Oosthuizen, and then he doesn't play anymore. You know, my basic theory is like I hate to bet the favorites.
If Scotty Scheffler won 9 tournaments, which he did last year, but you would be barely breaking even with him if you bet him in every tournament. Barely breaking even if you bet him at 4-1 or less.
This is why my
won
hope
9 times, an incredible 9 times.
This is why my hope is that there will be some member of the Augusta police force who looked at Scotty Scheffler and sees a man for who he is, which is a scumbag who drags cops behind his car for no reason and shoots Scotty Scheffler in the parking lot like he deserves. That would be the best outcome for those of us who did bet the dentist, is if a cop takes revenge for his brother law enforcement who got dragged behind a car by Scotty Scheffler last year. Unfortunately, they've switched the Doral event to a Live Tour event because I was fully prepared to go there and plant some crack in Scheffler's rental car, and they call the cops and tell them I saw him selling it at a school zone. But
the time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here. The Defo Show, a Thursday edition. We will have our trivia challenge session today. It's going to start a little early with Dave Gurgles Gurgley, so we'll get that going in about 15 minutes, maybe even a little bit less, as you'll have your chance to win a fabulous prize if you're a South Florida resident. We have a gift certificate to Landlubbers, outstanding sports bar. What a great place, Lubie. Could it be better? Any situation that you can imagine in terms of, there are several great places that we know of where you could watch a bunch of games and have some great food at reasonable prices, different atmospheres. But Landlubbers is right there at the top of my list. I love that because you're in there with the diehard sports fans, and they're all over the place. You're going to be there tonight with your live trivia presentation with the professor, which everybody loves that. It's probably the #1 live trivia competition that you can find at any establishment. I think, you know what, you're too humble to say that, Libby. You're not the type of guy that's going to come on here and go, yeah, ours is the best. But it really is. I mean, according to all sources, it sounds very sophisticated, a heck of a lot of fun. How long have you had that going, though? It's been many, many years already.
Landlubbers a few years. We started at a place called Vega Lounge out east by the Foundry, and that was we started that in 2013. I don't know, that we did for off and on for over 10 years with a COVID pause. Stopped that last year, and we've been doing Landlubbers like 3 or 4 years now. We've been doing Landlubbers a while now.
There have been ownership changes, menu changes, price changes, all kinds of stuff. Although they really, it's one of the best places you could bring a family. It's in Plantation, right? Is the official town designation there.
Sure.
Sunrise and Pine Island. And I used to go there and do this high school football show. That's how I first became familiar with the establishment. And the great Alex Sufrene, who was the owner at the time, he sold out. Has anybody seen him? Is he on his yacht somewhere? What is this guy doing? Alex Sufrene, Lubie. I used to go out on my wave runners with Sufrene. He was a real ocean adventurer. He would just stop the thing where we're a couple of miles offshore, not that far, but maybe a mile offshore, and boom, he would just jump in the water, this guy.
Oh, Sufrene.
Alex, your thing is drifting away, and I don't have a rope. God. Never let the boat get away, man. Ask Rob Conrad about that. Someday we'll have to have him on the show because he's still in action. The former Dolphin and Syracuse great. Anyway, good day to be here. We have the trivia challenge, the draft. Now, the draft always had different connotations for me when I was growing up, Lubie, because the draft was something that you didn't necessarily, not that I'm unpatriotic or didn't want to go into the military, but it really wasn't my bag, especially as the war in Vietnam was escalating. And I will not forget this moment. It had to be late 60s. Chronologically, listen, you can excuse me for maybe having the dates a little bit out of whack, but it was late 60s, and they had just instituted, the U.S. military, the Army, had just instituted the draft lottery. The draft lottery, Lubie. So I remember I was working a game at Shea. I was on my way back. I had to be 18 for this to be a concern of mine. And they were announcing the dates of the draft lottery as if they were doing an NFL draft. They were announcing them on the All News radio station as they were drawing the dates. You're talking about 365 days. So your birthday was assigned a number, And the higher the number, the less likely it was that you were about to be shipped off to net. So there was some concern about that. And I remember being in the car, and I think you can go back and verify this, Luby, of the first 5 dates, 1 through 5, 3 were in the month of July.
Oh
So
God.
they're drawing number one. I don't know if it was number one, well, whatever it was out of the 5. And so I'm listening, and each time they go number one, which meant that you were going, man. I mean, you may as well arm yourself with an AK-47 and learn how to put out fires. And number one was July, like number 3 was July, number 5 was July, but it wasn't July 5th, my birthday. And I came home, and I don't know if my mother had caught the entire draw, but she looks at me, she's got tears in her eyes, and she literally already had envisioned me dead on a rice paddy somewhere in Cambodia. I mean, it was crazy. And I ended up having a very high number. It was 287. I won't forget it. And I was not going to be eligible for the draft anyway because that was a giant incentive to stay in school.
Yeah, you're in college. Yep.
I was in college. I was going. That was, I mean, the fail safe there. And eventually they did away with it. But that was my experience with the draft. It was the horror of listening to the radio and thinking that my name might be drawn or my birthday might be drawn in the top 5. Now, later on, and as a football fan, and you older guys, you geezers out there that are listening to the program, and I don't know, do we have women in a category of, say, 60 plus, Luby? What would you think the demographics are in that category? Probably 0.0, but
God,
yeah, we have a few, I would imagine. And so, it was one of those things where the NFL draft meant next to nothing. You would be aware of a number 1 pick, maybe even a first rounder, but even a mid to lower first rounder was of little concern, little fanfare for the people that were following the National Football League. And that continued throughout my lifetime. I remember even when I was covering the draft that was being conducted by the Los Angeles Rams, Ray Malavasi was the coach. Not exactly a quote machine, Ray Malavasi, but a reasonably good guy. You know where the Rams drafted? One of the years I was covering the draft out there, they drafted Bob Brudzinski with the number 1 overall pick. Bob Brudzinski, who later went on to fame as a restaurateur here, and of course was an excellent member of the Miami Dolphins cast. And he said nothing at the press conference. He was a very quiet guy, Brudzinski. Did you ever get to know him, Libby, Bob Brudzinski?
I mean, we've seen him at events.
Out of
He's a
Ohio
nice
State,
guy,
yeah.
but he does not talk a lot. You are 100% right. He is a quieter guy.
He is a babbling brook and a machine. Are you kidding me? The guy always. Well, it turned out he didn't want to play in Los Angeles for some reason, so he was drafted there. Didn't really do too much, but what wasn't deemed to be any kind of a bust, and he got traded to Miami and became a very, very solid player. I don't know. You couldn't say borderline Hall of Famer, could you, Lubie? What do you think?
I don't know. That's before my time.
You know what? His career is a little. I mean, I know he was a very prominent player. He was always considered good. I don't know that he was considered great, but he sure does have a knack in the kitchen there with the wings and the ribs that he was making with Eddie Houck for many, many years. And he was one of the original purveyors there of the sports bar concept in South Florida. So, good guy, but there was not that much fanfare about it, right? They introduced Bob Brzezinski. He was like, hey, the guy doesn't say anything. Let's hope he can play. And that was about it. And then it became first a cottage industry and then an industry unto itself, the draft. I'm not sure what it is. Now, the draft begins tonight. Seems like the only question anybody has is where will Shedeur Sanders land? Is that really enough to carry interest in the draft, Lubie? I mean, there have been quarterback debates before. You had Bledsoe and Rick Myrer. And fortunately for Parcells, he took Drew Bledsoe. Was it Parcells that drafted Bledsoe? Was he coaching the Patriots then? I want to say yes.
Yes.
All right, so he made the right choice. So we've seen a couple of swings at debatable number ones. It was 1 versus 2, and you thought, well, this other guy, he may turn out to be better than. Imagine you had Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning. That was a huge debate.
Yes, it was a big deal.
I got duped on that one, Louis. I don't know how you. Were you young to remember that, or
I hated Peyton Manning, and I actually liked that Washington State team and Ryan Leaf. I thought they were a lot of fun. I thought he was a big strapping dude with a big arm, and I thought he would. I don't know if I thought he'd be a better pro, but at the time, I liked him more than Peyton Manning.
all of the rhetoric and all of the conversation leading up to the draft that year started to lean towards Ryan Leaf being a better quarterback than Peyton Manning. We'd seen Peyton Manning choke in a couple of occasions. Couldn't beat the Gators.
No.
Peyton Manning would have horrible games at big-time moments of truth, although, distinguished himself very well throughout his collegiate career there at Tennessee. But it seemed like at first it was a wide gap between them. And then as Leaf began to narrow the gap, he actually overcame and eclipsed the sentiment about Peyton Manning. And there was some consideration that he would be the number one pick overall. It turned out that Manning was the choice, and the rest is history. Leaf laid an egg, fell on his face. Any number of overall number one busts. We've seen that dozens of times in the draft. But this year, that seems to be the one question. It's a certainty, or seems to be a veritable certainty, that Cam Ward will go number one. I was just reading an article where a guy, remember Matt Rule? Where's he coaching now? Matt Rule.
Nebraska.
He's just collecting money.
Nebraska's coach. He's Nebraska's coach.
Okay, yeah, Matt Rule. He came back to the college ranks after a brief sniff in the pros, and he says that the Giants would be foolish not to take Shedeur Sanders at number 3 when they make their pick. You're going to have Abdul Carter sitting there in all likelihood.
Not taking Shedeur Sanders.
And you would, what would you rather have? Who would you rather have? The defensive pass rusher, Abdul Carter, or Shedeur Sanders?
I don't think Sanders is a first-round pick.
Like, I don't think so. Wow.
I think Ward in another draft.
What are you saying here? You should loose up your hair when you say things like this.
I think Ward in another draft would be a late first-round pick that you would hope you could coach the daredevil out of him, but he wouldn't be this high. Sanders, a guy came out yesterday, and they didn't. It sucks when they don't name these people, but an NFL exec came out. Yeah, it's literally the worst interview I've ever had. And he's this arrogant kid.
Wow.
On top of that, he's not good. Which is
what am I missing here? I thought he was a really grounded,
no, he's a
solid citizen. Had enough separation from the kind of ego that is demonstrated by his father that you thought, wow, this guy is a pleasant departure from that whole Sanders MO, and yet does have extremely high athletic talent. If I was a scout in the National Football League, I would get buried. I might even take him number 1. I don't know.
I will have to see. And again, if he falls and goes to the right situation, like we talked about yesterday, it would be to his benefit, because I think he's a guy that doesn't have all the NFL tools, but he's accurate. And I don't think he's been around the football a long time, so I don't think he gets like too high or too low. So he's a guy that could find his way. He doesn't have the arm. He's not athletic. And unless you go to the Eagles or maybe the Colts, there's not a lot of good offensive lines. So like in this day and age, you need to be able to move a little bit because you're going to get killed. He's not athletic at all. And his arms,
like you're putting him on the all Dolly Parton team then? Do you think he's going to be
yeah. I think he's a backup. I don't think he's an NFL starting quarterback. I haven't liked it. And again, there's bias there too. I think he's a loudmouth. I think his dad sucks. I think Travis Hunter made him look a lot better than he is. If you look a lot of these plays, it's Hunter climbing up a freaking ladder in double cover. Like as we've seen a lot of the times, the receivers can make a quarterback. I don't know. I think he will get drafted. I think he'll get drafted in the first round. I think where he goes is everything for him. Because
essentially for many quarterbacks, though, they get drafted.
100%. Where they get drafted is.
You think Trevor Lawrence would be good if he was taken by a team that actually had something on the ball that wasn't maybe among the worst managed teams in all of sports?
100%.
Jacksonville Jaguars. Look at this guy floundering there. I think what was he? Was he 2-8 in 10 starts last year? Trevor Lawrence. This was a guy that couldn't miss. He was Andrew Luck. He was a cinch.
Oh, yeah. No, he was generational prospect. 100%.
Unbelievable. All right. We'll get into the draft a little bit later on with Jason Cole going to join us from the 33rd team. Jason's been affiliated with a lot of top-notch NFL reporting organizations. This is a website that and a place where you can go for NFL information, where they really have some guys that get down there into the mines and dig for gold nuggets. Jason Cole, been around for a long time, so always a pleasure having him on the show. We'll get some insight I don't know that he's a college guy so much, but he can give us a lot of insight into what the team needs
He
are
knows
and
the
maybe
players, yeah.
executive office philosophies, who's likely to succeed, who's likely to fail. So we'll have some speculation on what would a draft day show be without some speculation on the draft?
Oh, yeah, you need something. Look, the Sanders thing is giving this draft a little bit of mystique because otherwise it's a lot of guys people don't know.
If that's the sexiest thing about the draft, though, the most critical
Yeah.
thing about the
Well,
draft.
Hunter, where will Hunter go 2 or 3, and will he play? He's going to play defensive back, but how much receiver will he get to play? I mean, that's really.
I think you do the same thing you did with Dion when he was, opting to perform on offense a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
He spot him here and there, maybe a little bit more than Deion Sanders. I don't
He'll
know.
get bored, like in the pros, especially since it's hard to have 2 shutdown corners. Usually they'll just attack the nickel and the other corner that sucks. So if you're like an elite corner, it can get really boring. So if you do have other skills, I can see him like, come on, coach, put me. Like he's gonna get out there on offense. He's too jacked up and he's too talented to just sit there, especially if he does go to the Browns, if they're smart, if the first time in a long time they're smart and they draft him. Like they need talent.
Well, and if you're going to target a receiver, if a receiver gets targeted 10 times a game, that's a lot.
Yes,
right?
yes.
You see great receivers, and they've only been targeted 6-7 times in a ball game, and you're asking yourself, "Hey, what the hell are the coaches thinking?" So, if a big number of targets in a ball game for a receiver is 10, why can't this guy play 15 snaps on offense if he's out there on the defensive side? You would think he could. He's a young guy, Lubie. He still has those young legs. I don't know. You're going to gas him out if he plays too much NFL football. It's a different level. There are no Scribini teams there. You're always going against somebody that is least close to being your equivalent. Yep. And so we'll see how that plays out. But if that's it, I mean, that kind of reminds me of that Super Bowl. What was it, 41 that was here in Miami? Indianapolis Colts and the Chicago Bears. Everybody knew it was going to be the Colts all the way. They dominated the game. And the only storyline for 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl was whether or not Dwight Freeney was going to play. And sure enough, he did play, but they actually had installed like an ankle bracelet on this guy. And so they had a camera on his ankle the entire time leading up to the Super Bowl. And that was the only storyline. Hey, you think Freeney's going to play? Well, I don't know. I mean, how the hell would we know? All right, we had baskets to get into. Well, we'll try and touch on that. The Heat brought it to within 2 last night after being hopelessly down and looking like they were completely out of their ball game. Yep. And ended up losing by 9 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So they covered the point spread, but did they put themselves in a position to win the series?
No.
Absolutely not. I think that's far-fetched. Your man Jovic had a really bad series at the end, and I want to like this kid, but every time I see him, it's kind of like the old thing with Korver, where I never see Kyle Korver. He's a leading three-point percentage shooter in the three-point category for year after year, and I never saw him make a shot. Never. Every time I saw him, great form, ball would rattle around the rim and come out. Jovic, whenever I'm watching this guy, he's horrible, even though I want to like him.
I mean, he contributed. He had 11 points. I think he was the 3rd or 4th leading scorer. So he helped a lot. He was just horrible at the end. At the end, literally, when they had a shot to actually maybe take a lead, he twice airballed it. Bad defense.
2 ugly airballs wide open. Turned the ball over on it was a gutsy pass attempt, but maybe not appropriate at the time.
Not needed.
And then subsequent to that, after he throws the ball away, the Cavs come running up the court there, and who's left on defense but Jovic, and he lets the guy blow right by him for a layup. So it was an ugly period of time there, and the Heat go down. They're down 0-2 to Cleveland. That one looks like it has 5 written all over it. Although at least we saw signs of life from the Heat last night in that game. Boston wins. They're up 2-0. They're, I think, 41-1 all time in series where they lead 2-0. So it looks like Orlando's Gonzo City. Maybe they get one at home. And Golden State, Jimmy Butler, injured. Man, that was a tough fall. That's one of those falls that you dread even thinking about in a basketball game, where you're sort of, it wasn't an illegal play or a dirty play, but he kind of got the equivalent of being low bridged from behind. And lands flat on his back, left the ball game. And now the theory is that without Jimmy Butler, Golden State has no chance. So Houston wins it 109-94. Hockey last night, Washington goes up 2-0. You had Dallas in overtime. They're the favorites to win the Stanley Cup, surprisingly. I hadn't seen any of the Dallas Stars all year long, Lubie. I don't know if you watched any Dallas Stars hockey. DeBoer is the coach there. He's been there for a little while. We know he's a very quiet guy, but gets the job done. He did a good job here with the Panthers. Did he win a Stanley Cup with the Devils? Did they win a Stanley Cup years ago with Peter DeBoer? I know they knocked the Panthers out of the playoffs that one year.
They got
And they beat Colorado in OT, and the LA Kings are dominating the Edmonton Oilers. So Oilers trying to get back and seek revenge for losing in the final in 7 games last year, and they're down 0-2 now to the LA Kings. All right, let's bring on Dave Gurgles Gurgley, get the trivia challenge started here. You can dial us up if you'd like to play, 954-417-0070, 954-417-0070. You have a chance to win a prize, and there he is, looking good, Dave Gurgles Gurgley. How are you, my friend?
Doing terrific. Yesterday, I had a decision to go whether to bet simulcast or go to the Marlins game, so I went to the Marlins game, and it was absolutely delightful.
How did they make out last night? I didn't see the result.
They lost 5-2, which is great because I had Cincinnati over 79.5.
Yes. Oh, that's right. I was wondering if you were taking in that series because they were crushing the Reds like a grape in the early couple of games. So, excellent. And how was it? How was the experience?
My experience was really, really nice. No problem parking. Everybody was polite. I got a nice seat down the first baseline. Cost me about $30, but that's 10 across on a horse that'll run fifth. So really good time, and the ballpark was great. I don't think there was 10,000 people there though. Maybe 8,000, but it was a glorious day, beautiful day to be there. A couple of home runs. Mervis hit a home run for the Marlins, and just a really enjoyable day. But not as much fun as Keeneland, but enjoyable.
All right. Well, and you've been scoring. You were notorious for hitting these giant pick threes. And, of course, your trip to Keeneland became the stuff of which legends are made with all of the scores you made. So, that sounds like a great – I mean, it's nice once you get there. And if you can detach yourself from all of the acrimony and the neurosis about the Marlins franchise to begin with, if you can just detach yourself for an afternoon, once you're in the ballpark –
it's nice.
You feel okay until you get to the concession stands. I don't know.
It wasn't bad at all. I had a kosher soft pretzel at the kosher stand in honor of you and Lubie. But the food was reasonable. The people were nice. So I'd recommend going out to the ballpark. Like you said, once you're inside, no problem. $15 to park in the garage. That's not a ripoff for a game like that.
Not too bad at all. Yeah.
Very, very reasonable.
You didn't try no blocky anywhere?
No. I parked in one of the parking garages down the first base line. So I knew where it was. The only thing is that I'm not one of these 20th century guys, so you had to scan an app and download this and do that and everything. Yeah. Luckily, I had the parking girl who didn't speak any English help me. It was like Bill Murray in Lost in Translation. But we got it done.
They make it so complicated now.
I just finished before I came on the air making my flight reservations for Saratoga, going back up in August.
Oh, very nice. All right. You're living the dream, Dave Gurgles.
Got to do it.
All right, we want to get to the game here, and you can dial us up if you want to play. We already have some people lining up, so jump on board. You still have an excellent chance, even if you call now, to be the next player and the first player up in the game because of the use and the employment of the random phone scrambler, which how's that machine holding up, Lubie? We've had that thing for years and years now.
It's making it through.
Players. Is it still working?
It's tape and the whole thing, but from your days to iHeart to now, it's still here.
Wow, we've been carrying this thing for a long, long time. So, dial us up, 954-417-0070, 954-417-0070. You want to get right into it? Because we're going to accommodate Jason Cole later on. He's going to join us about 8:45. So we'll have the trivia challenge here for the next 20 minutes or so. And we'll get right into it. Dave's going to fire off the questions. And dial us up at 954-417-0070. We always pay homage to the game's co-creator, the Polyman Paul Massell, who was in fine form of late. I turned him on to that Netflix thing, Race to the Crown. I know you're not inclined to have pay wall channels there, Dave Gurgles Gurgley, but this couldn't be any better of a piece. So I'm inspired there, and I decided, let me see if I can get a hold somehow of Jason Worth, who owned Dornoch last year, keyed a $4,000 pick 5 in the Belmont. That I was able to cash, and it was a sea of chalk before that. This horse went off 17-1. And Worth, of course, played for the Philadelphia Phillies, your favorite team. Had the long hair, very distinguished, easy to pick out. And turns out he's a great guy. And believe it or not, out of nowhere, after seeing if my friend Frank Miramonte had any connection, or maybe could look it up in the Santa Anita publicity office, get a number on a guy. He sends me the guy's number, says he's a friend of his, and he says, call him right away or text him right away. He'll do it. So next Tuesday, I believe it'll happen right here on Bleacher Brothers. Jason Worth. You couldn't get a better guy to talk to because he was right there on the Triple Crown run last year, won the Belmont, and that was the first horse he had a piece of.
Wow.
So, but and you could see, I mean, the whole transition from competitive athlete to being in horse racing, very interesting storyline that they had going there in that piece. So it's excellent. All right, here we go. So Dave, in honor of the Polyman Paul Massell, who said this thing was great as well, we're going to start out the game in the traditional fashion with Dave and some
easy baseball. This 40-plus-year-old pitcher, who was the first ever Marlins starter, showing his age, said, "You know, when I broke in, they didn't have bats. We just grabbed the branch off an old tree." What was that? Charlie Huff, Sam Huff, off the cuff, and that's enough.
Never forget seeing Charlie Huff, an aging Charlie Huff, who looked like Burgess Meredith as the Penguin. And we were in Melbourne covering the Marlins' first spring training. And I'm looking at the barn as a guy slumped over there. Looked like he was from the area, like he might have even driven over from Kissimmee or some hillbilly area. And he's got a scotch in one hand, looked like a pretty hefty pour, a cigarette in the other. And he's hunched over the bar. And I'm thinking, wow, that's our opening day pitcher. And sure enough, he was on the mound there for that victory. All right, Mike, you're up first on the Trivia Challenge. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, gentlemen. A
is correct. Way to go, Mike.
All right, Mike, sticking with baseball, true or false? Believe it or not, a baseball autographed by Pope Francis is being auctioned off to the highest bidder in the wake of his death, and it could end up selling for over 5 figures, expected to go for at least $15,000. True or false?
Seems a little light.
I'll say you made that up. False.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. That's
No,
true?
That's true. That's true.
That's only worth 15 dimes even after
Well, that's what
out?
it's expected to go for, yeah.
Wow.
Apparently he had a losing record when he pitched. So.
Have more of an element of rarity since it's not likely he's going to sign another ball anytime
That's
soon.
probably right there.
All right, one going for 4 here, Mike.
All right, Mike, let's go to the NFL draft coming up this Thursday. In 1970, the Miami Dolphins did not have a first-round pick. It went to Baltimore for signing Coach Shula. Their first pick in the second round was our old friend, the Mad Dog Jim Mandich, who was selected with their next pick.
All right.
Jake Scott, Mike Kodish, Tim Foley, or Dick Anderson?
Foley.
Well done.
Wow.
The Amway King, Tim Foley.
4 going for 9. Off to a rocking start here in the Trivia Challenge.
All right. Baseball. Who was the last major league player to hit 3 triples in a single game? Lance Johnson, Yasiel Puig, Denard Spahn, or Eric Thames?
I thought you might throw Lou Brock in there.
Let's go with letter B.
B, as in
B.
boy.
B or D?
D. Doesn't matter. It was C. Denard Spahn.
Just on the 50-50, but you did tally 4 points, Mike. So you're currently the pace setter here in the Trivia Challenge. You can jump on board, jump in if you'd like to play. 954-417-0070. 954-417-0070 if you'd like to play the game here. We have the Landlubbers gift certificate. If you're from out of town, if you're from another state here, I don't know, it might even work in another country. If you can get in on the show, we have a Texas Roadhouse gift certificate authorized by our good friend Ed Garcia, who joins us on Wednesdays for Tony Segreno's Old School. And so that's a very nice prize. We want to accommodate everybody that's tuned in on Bleacher Brothers here this morning and familiarize you with, the overall greatness of this game, which has lasted forever. All right, next set of questions, Dave Gurgles Gurgley.
Boxing. This sports writer, on his disdain for Larry Holmes, said, if Larry Holmes is the people's champion, then asparagus is the people's vegetable. Was that Bernie Lincecum, Bernie Kosar, Bernie Perrant, or Bridget Loves Bernie?
I thought it might have been the great Burt Randolph Sugar, although he liked Larry Holmes. Ron, you're up next on the Trivia. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, fellas. Let's go with A.
A is correct. 1 point.
Oh, boy, Ron. I'm going to make it there one of these Thursdays, Ron, but I got a tournament this Friday. All right.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
Golf, true or false? Retired game show host Pat Sajak just finished runner-up in the member guest golf tournament at Hollywood Hills, California, with his team shooting a net 6 under par. True or false?
Let's go true.
Sounds like baloney. Yeah, Sajak.
I made that up.
Yeah,
Lenny would be proud of you, Mike.
he's on some Greek island somewhere.
I think you missed it on purpose for Lenny, Ron.
I remember Sajak when he was the weatherman on the local LA station. Pat Sajak. You could have never imagined that he was going to emerge as what? Did he host that for 30 40 years? What was it? Wheel of Fortune?
40. It was 40.
Wow. Very nice job. All right. You have one going for 4.
All right, hockey, Ron. The New York Islanders won 4 straight Stanley Cups from 1980 to 83. Since then, 2 teams have won back-to-back Stanley Cups on 2 different occasions. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the Edmonton Oilers, the Detroit Red Wings, the Tampa Bay Lightning, or the Chicago Blackhawks.
Let's go Tampa Bay Lightning.
Lightning.
No. Edmonton Oilers, 84 and 85, and 87 and 88.
I need this one, Ron. This will give you 6 points and put you on top.
All right, Ron. Which Major League Baseball player has the most career first inning home runs? Ricky Henderson, Mike Schmidt, Albert Pujols, or Chipper Jones?
First inning. Let's go Chipper Jones.
I wouldn't go Chipper. I'm going to go Ricky.
Albert Pujols had 145 first inning home runs.
Jesus.
I kind of like started with leadoff home runs, but
it is lead off, but then I guess it's true. Guys, getting
inning,
to the third dude, you'll get in the inning.
Interesting question here, Gurgles. All right, Ron bombs out, so it leaves it wide open. 954-417-0070 on the phone lines. 954-417-0070. Perdomo Cigars, Gergs, I would imagine. No smoking in the ballpark. Is there a smoking area where you could?
No, but I did. I rented a 5-bedroom farmhouse with 140 acres, 13 miles from the track. We had to go across a little creek from Deliverance to get there, out in the middle of nowhere, but I had a patio out back with the sunrise on one side, sunset on the other, and I, myself, and Fernando enjoyed a couple of Perdomo cigars there. And you don't have to go all the way to Keeneland to enjoy a Perdomo cigar. 5150 Northwest 167th Street on the Palmetto, on the south side, just a little bit east of the Home Depot, Monday through Friday. I'll be in there this week to see Nick Jr. They're a 4th-generation tobacco company, and they make them perfect. It's Cuban seed tobacco grown in Nicaragua. Go in and say hello to Bruce, the concierge, ex-retired police officer who knows his cigars. He'll direct you to the humidor. Built by our late great friend, the Mad Dog. 305-627-6700 is the number to call. Maybe Saturday or Sunday you want a Perdomo cigar. Well, they're closed on the weekends, a family retail business, but any tobacconist near you will have those Perdomo cigars available. If you're not sure, go online, www.perdomocigars.com, the number to call. As the Heat get swept in the playoffs, you can light up a Perdomo cigar and root for the Panthers.
All right. It looks like it's going to be an early exit for the Miami Heat, although I really feel like they got about as far as they were going to get this year. And actually getting out of the play-in tournament, I thought was a little bit of an accomplishment, provided a little bit of fun. And as Lubie said, if Jovic wasn't chucking air balls up in the last couple of minutes on wide open shots, they're right in there with a chance to literally steal one in Cleveland. So they have a little bit of fight in them. They still have that Heat culture, I guess, working for them, although it's starting to look like, that yogurt that you found in the refrigerator 6 years ago. Yeah, this looks good. You ever open up guacamole and then leave it in the fridge for a little period of time?
Never touch the stuff.
It's the kind of stuff that even Louis Pasteur would bypass if he opened up the fridge door and say, no, nothing here. I think I'll just toss this out. All right, ready for our next set. I did have a trivia question for you and Lubie, all right? We'll throw one out there for you guys. Because it happened last night that Jock Peterson snapped an 0-for-41 streak at the plate. He had been hitless in his previous 41 at-bats. And I'm thinking, well, was there actually anybody that went longer without getting a base hit? And there was. So who holds the record for most consecutive at-bats without a base hit?
Well, I go way back to when Ray Oyler went 0 for July for the Tigers.
It's not him. And you'll remember this guy, the futility of this guy, because I think he had gotten to the point where he was getting paid big money, and everybody thought he was really going to, do something spectacular, and he ended up just laying an egg. Chris Davis, remember with the Orioles?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
crash.
He had a steroid home run year, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and then he went 0 for 54.
Wow.
Or snapping out of it. 0 for that's the major league record, I think, by a pretty wide margin. All right, here we go, Dave, in our next set of questions.
Golf. This pro golfer describing the sport said, golf is a lot like love. One day you think you're too old, and the next day you want to do it again. Was that the great Roberto Di Vincenzo, Roberto Alomar, Roberto Clemente, or Roberto Duran?
All right, roll the scramble, Lubie. And it lands on, all right, always good to hear from this gentleman here, because it reassures us that he's okay. Andy, you're on the trivia challenge. Good morning, Andy.
Hey, guys. I think it was DiVincenzo, and he signed his marriage certificate incorrectly.
I remember that.
That's great, man. All right, one going for two, Andy.
All right, let's stick with golf. When Rory McIlroy's 3-year-old daughter, Poppy, sank the 15-foot putt at the Masters Par 3 contest, she not only had 4 million views on YouTube, but will appear on the May issue cover of Junior Golf. True or false?
I'll go with false.
False.
Yeah, that's
All right,
false.
very
That's
good.
false. Yeah.
You can smell it, right? You have two going for five.
All right, let's stick with baseball. There's another streak. 2 players had extra base hits in 14 consecutive games. Paul Wainer and
Ooh.
Chipper Jones, Manny Ramirez, Derek Jeter, or Al Kaline.
A lot of Chipper Jones team here.
I'll go with Manny.
Manny, no.
It was Chipper Jones. Yes.
There you go. Sorry, I didn't mean to give it away. Maybe I
You swayed him.
encouraged him from mentioning.
Crazy.
You swayed him.
I faded Defo. I mean,
I don't blame you there. Okay. All right.
A claim of foul has been lodged against the host. Show.
NFL draft. In the 1976 draft, the Dolphins had 2 number 1 picks. They took Larry Gordon out of Arizona State, and with the 17th pick, they took our buddy Kim Bocamper with the 19th pick from which college?
All right.
Fresno State, San Jose State, Cal State, or USC?
Oh, God.
he went to Fresno with San Jose.
You don't hear his college mentioned ever.
San Jose.
You went
San
with the
Jose,
right
yeah.
one.
Very
San
good.
Jose State.
Kim Bocamper, very distinguished career. And
Well, hang
now,
on. Andy. You're
a
gonna be in our-
frontline restaurateur here in South Florida. The great Kim Bocamper. Everybody likes, what's that place called? The Cut and something? The Chopping?
Catch and cut. Catch and cut.
Catch and Cut. Catch and Cut. It's a high scale, upscale seafood and steak joint. Where did he get the chef from Joe's Stone Crabs or something? I believe he may have. Although, how hard is it to cook a stone crab? I don't think it's that difficult. Don't they come cooked? They cook them right there on the dock. All right, we're going to get set for the finals here. Before we put that together, Andy and Mike are going to square off for the championship here of our Thursday game of the Trivia Challenge. We'll have Jason Cole coming up. We'll get some insight into what these front office people might be thinking as we head into the draft and whether or not he thinks that the most important question to be asked is where will Shedeur Sanders land? We would have to address the topical material on the draft with Jason Cole, but always great insight from Jason Cole. That's coming up.
I heard him late last night on 940.
Oh, very nice.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he does a great job.
His partner. Yep.
All right, tell us about Perdomo Cigars real quick.
Yeah, one more time. 305-627-6700 is the number to call. The place to visit, 5150 Northwest 167th Street. You got Father's Day right around the corner. Or you just want a sample of cigars. Nick and Bruce and the gang are very knowledgeable, whether you like a Connecticut wrapper, a Maduro wrapper, whether you like a small one or whether you like a Churchill style, they make them perfect one at a time. Stop by if you're a beginning smoker or you have a smoker in your family, you want a gift, get a gift certificate for them to Perdomo Cigars, and they can pick whatever they want. So go visit Perdomo Cigars today. As we always say, put something great in your mouth with a cigar from Perdomo Cigars.
Mike and Andy for the championship of our Thursday game. Here's what's going to happen, guys. Dave's going to fire off a question. Call out your name if you want to answer right away. Nobody answers right away. We'll offer multiple choice. First person to call out his name gets first chance. We go back and forth until we have a winner for the championship and all the great prizes associated and the distinction of being a winner here on Bleacher Brothers. Here's Dave Gurgles Gurgley with our championship question.
All right. NBA hoops. In 1981, the San Antonio Spurs set an NBA record with 20 block shots versus who?
Oh,
God.
The Kings, the Clippers, the Warriors, or the 76ers?
Mike,
who was it?
Warriors.
Warriors.
Wow.
Oh,
First guess. Well done,
Holy
Mike.
Aladdles. What are we talking about?
Nice,
Good
Mike.
job.
Good job. Thanks, guys.
Good job. Andy buried in the finals again. Unbelievable. And Mike is the winner and the recipient. He'll be the recipient, proud recipient of a Landlubbers gift certificate. You can catch Lubie out there with the professor later on tonight. What time do the festivities get underway, Lubie?
Well, the Panthers are screwing me out of money. The Panthers game's at 6:30.
Oh, okay.
They're literally as close as you can get to the Panthers arena.
That's right.
And the Panthers aren't playing at home. So a lot of Panther fans will be rallying at Landlubbers tonight, which they should. It's a great place to catch Panthers games. However, there will be no trivia because of that, because the game starts which I don't understand why it starts at 6:30. Like, that's the most ludicrous.
I think they have 4 games tonight. They have like
that's
a ridiculous schedule going.
Okay, well.
Yeah, tonight you got Florida, Tampa Bay, Toronto, Ottawa, Vegas, and Minnesota, and Winnipeg and St. Louis. All 4.
So there's no trivia tonight because it's literally going up against the Panthers, and they like literally turn up the Panthers on all the TVs and they put it on the speakers and whatnot. But we will be back next Thursday at 6:30 at Landlubbers.
And that's a go-to place before and after games.
Yeah, great for Panthers.
Arena. People love it, man. Especially, I mean, if a game ends up at like, 9:30, 10 o'clock? Boom.
Yeah.
Right to Landlubbers, and they still have the menu open. All right, sorry you're missing out on a payday there, Gurgles. You never miss a payday and or a chance to make money. So thanks so much for being with us here today. It's always a pleasure, and we'll see you next week. Dave Gurgles Gurgley, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're going to come back with Jason Cole. We'll get into the draft.
Yes, sir.
The draft. Green Bay, Wisconsin. Are they having the opening round at night at Lambeau? And is it going to be? Is it going to be below 30 degrees at Lambeau? Is it cold there like year round?
How cold is it right now?
No, it has to be at least reasonable. No, don't they get some springtime weather? If ever I could leave you, how could it be in springtime? That'd be great, though, if it was like 28 degrees in Green
It's
Bay.
balmy. It says it's 52 degrees right now. So
All right. That's a nice day there.
yeah.
All right, we're going to come back with Jason Cole and dive into a deep dive into the NFL draft in a moment. Now that I think people are thinking, no, not more of the draft.
Yeah.
We kind of
Talk draft.
barely scratched the surface.
We usually spend every day talking draft. We haven't talked any drafts this year. I don't know what. There's only so much you talk linemen. Like,
You get a nondescript sort of pick up the local team there, 13. There's not much speculation. I mean, you don't even hear any names like, hey, we want this guy.
nah.
Don't need to draft a quarterback, even though they might have a need to draft one in some people's opinion. But so that takes a lot of the edge off watching this thing. And they're going to get some nondescript guy that you're going to go, I hope he's good.
Yep.
And I guess other cities, are they excited in Nashville to get to Cam Ward? We'll see.
Probably. Yeah.
All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. Jason Cole going to join us. Now that it's 8:44. Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
The world, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten my sugar now.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. Good to have you guys with us. Of course, tonight, and the countdown's been up on ESPN. I think they promoted this almost as much as they do the Masters, where the promos are already airing for the 2026 edition. But the draft begins tonight, if you are unaware of that. And we always love having some level of expertise that clearly goes much deeper and is more valid than ours. So we're very happy to have this gentleman join us here on the program. And as I went from left to right on the radio dial, any number of stations here in town, I don't know. Is Jason Cole? This is interesting because Lubie says, as he's letting me know that he's on the line here, he says, yeah, he's still with the 33rd team. And I thought, yeah, I'm glad you made that distinction because nobody has played free agency in the modern day media better. I mean, Neil O'Donnell and Jason Cole, who joins us now, probably the two best at using leverage to constantly get to a better position. Jason, how are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic, although it used to be Ethan Skolnick to do that. So,
Yes.
but maybe he's just done it in South Florida.
Yes.
So that could be it. And as far as expertise when it comes, I'm not sure that anybody has any real expertise, but
You're absolutely right.
Picking the players. We're all guessing. We're all guessing. I mean, there's some educated guesses about who's going to take which player. We have no idea if any of these guys are going to be any good. So that's the caveat to all of this.
So you're not inclined to go and do some arduous studying of somebody's 6th round mock draft. I figure there was anything tangible there that you could create some kind of a story or an article about.
I will say this: when Rick Gosselin used to do his major mock draft, it was valuable to look at because there was an understanding of needs and tendencies to go with. He did a pretty good research on talent, and he talked to a lot of people, and he made it kind of an art. And then I think people have copied that, but not with the same enthusiasm. And then it's hard to do it now because there are so many people who do it. And look, at a certain point, teams are, they talk to reporters trying to find out if the reporters know anything real and if they get any real information and all that. I get it. But it's hard for teams to really share information when they're trying to be A, so protective, and B, they're inundated by people who are now trying to do the draft analysis part of it.
Is that the most deceptive type of press conference that you've ever attended, when they have the pre-draft scenario being laid out by the team's general manager? And are there any statements that get more of an overreaction than when the guy says something and everybody goes running back to the presses there and says, oh, my God, he said they're going to take offense, but we know they're going to take defense now. How did you find those press conferences? Were they of any value?
No, they were terrible. It's not because they were terribly deceptive, but because, a lot of times, they didn't necessarily know what they wanted to do in a given situation. I mean, they had an idea what they wanted to do, but again, they're beholden to figuring out what's going to be out there. You have no idea of the number of times that a draft, especially after you get past really pick number 10.
Yeah.
When the whole thing goes kerflooey and somebody takes a player not even on the board, and all of a sudden it changes the whole draft structure and what everybody wants to do. Now, people have a general idea like, okay, I expect that these 5 or 6 guys are going to be at the end of the second round or the end of the first round, and that's possible. And there are, some occasional upsets, like an Aaron Rodgers falls in the draft. Maybe that's going to be Shedeur Sanders this year. It sounds like it's going to be Shedeur Sanders falling into the 20s and maybe even into the second round.
Wow.
Who knows? But he could also go number 3. And then all of a sudden you got Bill Carter, and people are sitting there going, okay, let's make a massive move up there. There could be the Cowboys making a big move to get up to number 4 or 5 to get Ashton Genty. We'll see how this plays out.
Well, I was going to add something else, but you brought up Shedeur Sanders. And you're not Mr. Let me break down the draft guy, but you cover the NFL well, including what happens after the draft with these players. So, and going back to our days with the Dolphins, we've heard ludicrous questions asked in the interview, but supposedly the interviews become a big deal because it does allow you to at least pick the brain and get one-on-one time with these players. We've heard consistently that his interviews have not been great, more so just because he's arrogant and other things. What do you do with that? As you know the league as well as anyone, how tangible is that, something like that that's intangible, where a guy can give off this aura, this personality, and what do you think that does with the level of player they can or can't be?
How is that different than the personality he gave off when he was playing at Colorado?
Honestly.
Like the kid came off as arrogant at Colorado. Blaming his offensive lineman sometimes, doing something. I mean, now he can play. And I think that the guys around him actually played hard. So my question is always, I don't really care what the interview is. Like, I expect guys to be arrogant. But because if you're not arrogant, like, how are you going to survive when they're kicking your tail in week after week?
Right.
And you have to go through that learning curve. You've got to come back and believe in yourself.
Yeah.
So you better have some level of arrogance. Like, there's nobody who's more arrogant in the history of the sport than Dan Marino. There may be some guys who are equal, but nobody has ever exceeded Dan Marino's arrogance. I take that every day.
Led the league, huh? Every year.
Every day and twice on Sunday, right? Like, you want that guy.
Okay.
Now, your question is the guy going to listen to you? Is he going to do the things that you ask him to do? And the most important thing in all of this is, will the guys around him play hard for him, particularly as a quarterback? And that's the question you always have to ask, and you have to find out the answer to. So all of this stuff about, he's a bad guy in the interview, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's a dickhead. Okay, like, what are you going to say? Okay, like, did you ever meet it? Did you ever meet his dad?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Right. Did you ever talk to Dion? Okay, but Dion was ready to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when it came time to Sundays, do you want that dude on your side? And the answer is absolutely yes. I want that guy on my side. So there's more to it, and there's nuance to it that people really truly need to understand, instead of just the really simple, like, 5 seconds, he had a bad interview and he's really a bad guy and he's arrogant. Like, there's way, way more to it. Now, again, if that's arrogance, like, that guy's not listening to us and he's not going to pay attention to the coaches and he's going to do it his way, then we got a problem. If he's arrogant and, that's just who he is, okay, I might be into that. I might like it. Again, I go back to the Marino example. Ain't nobody more arrogant than Dan Marino, and I will take him as my teammate all day long.
The great Jason Cole, the 33rd team, with us here on the Defo show. And it wouldn't be an interview or a conversation with Jason without some arcane reference. But I was thinking as you were talking about Dion that as a father, he makes Lonzo Ball's old man look like the father on My Three Sons.
No way. And Dion can back it up, man. Dion can back it up. Dion's got rings, number one. Number two, he's in the hall. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he has credentials, no
Larry-
doubt. In terms of
Larry-
medals.
Yeah, Larry Ball or Lonzo Ball or whatever Ball it was.
Yeah, it was. What was he? LeVar Ball? What was the guy's name?
Good job by you.
Yeah, LeVar Ball. That LeVar Ball ain't got no game. Okay, like
He played. Didn't he play in the NBA? Like he was a scrub with the Cavaliers or something.
No.
What are you talking about playing the NBA?
Playing college.
He said he could play in the NBA.
He's horrible.
Yeah, so could I have. If somebody had given me a uniform and allowed me to play and pay my way in, I mean, sure. I mean, come on. Again, Deion's arrogant. I've talked to Deion. I met with Deion. But Deion knows football. And Deion worked his tail off at it. And so if you're going to tell me that Shedeur Sanders is going to work as hard at knowing his craft as his old man did, I'll take my chances with him. Am I expecting the same results? No, because he's not his dad. He's not a world-class athlete. He's a very good one. Like, I think he's, like when you look at the foot speed and the arm talent, you see a lot of Jameis Winston. Okay, and some people go, "Oh, that's a bust and that's terrible." I'm just saying, from a physical makeup, okay, like arm strength. The arm strength of Jameis Winston is great. The problem with Jameis Winston is obviously interceptions, and he has to learn from that. I would think that Shedeur Sanders has a better chance to progress beyond that. And even if the career is a Jameis Winston type career, that at the end of the day is a fairly productive player. It's not a star, but it's a productive player who you can use. And I think in the proper setting, you can win games with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the big letters at the top of the sports eye chart, IF. But if you could have just trimmed a little bit the picks with Jameis Winston, he really, is far from the worst quarterback that you could have on your roster. All right, I love moments of chaos. This is what drives me to watch the draft. I like when Mel Kiper nearly came to blows with Bill Polian over a pick. When Warren Sapp was dropping and everybody was freaking out.
I think that was Vince Tobin, but you're on the right track.
Yeah, I thought it was Polian.
Irish guys who get really wet red face.
Yeah, no, it was great, and the Aaron Rodgers drama was fantastic. I mean, he's with his girlfriend out there at the table, and he's in the green room, and she ends up holding hands with his agent, and walks away after his stock drop. But where do you think? What franchise? And all of these NFL front offices very well, and Lubie's anticipating it comes at number 2 with the Cleveland Browns. But what franchise is the most likely to make just an atrocious mistake and be the first one to throw the draft into chaos?
Ooh. Let me look at the order.
Yeah, I mean, you got Cleveland there at number 2, and that's supposedly, I mean, everybody is implying if they don't take Hunter, if they do take Shedeur Sanders, where would you go with that?
I would say, look, 2 is safe because they will just take Travis Hunter, who's the best player on the board, right?
Right.
And then 3 is Carroll is going to be Abdul Carter, whether it's the Giants or somebody trades up to that spot, right?
The injury doesn't scare you? People aren't talking about it with Carter. Yeah, they're not. It's a foot thing.
Right. But the upset, like they all have injury issues, and whether it's I think it's serious, but the upside is rare in this draft. So like, there's 2 guys with. Carter has the best upside in this draft. Hunter's the next best player in terms of upside. That's a guy who you can say, likely all pro, multiple years and possible Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Carter's got, like,
no, he's insane.
If he's healthy, is like a 8-time all pro guy.
Yep.
Possible. The team that could, well, look, if Tom Brady wasn't in the room, I would say the Raiders. I think that there's just something. There's a mystique to the Raiders.
Yes,
like when you get into that Raiders, Jets, Carolina, New Orleans, Chicago range.
Ooh, now you're talking.
Man, like Defo. I mean, Defo, you might want to run like what's box bet? Like can you box that?
Those 5 games. That's fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's what do they call it? It's not a trifecta. It's more than a trifecta. Right?
Superfecta. We're going to pentafecta.
We're going to go superfecta.
Hectafecta. We're getting all 8.
That's yeah, that's a superfecta of just
All great choices.
yeah. I mean, they're just like, but I would go with the superfecta. I would just bet on all of them. Because I think their payoff is so good. Yeah, like it's just they're all. And the other problem is, this is the perfect draft to overthink it.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically, after you get done with Carter and Hunter and Cam Ward, okay, I don't think he's that great a quarterback, but he's going to go number one. After you get past, and Genty is, maybe the next Saquon Barkley, so you're going to take him up high. We get it.
Yeah.
The difference between the next best player and like the 20th or even 25th player in this draft is really small.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of draft where you can really start to overthink your position and screw it up.
Yeah.
and because
lined up the usual
once you have to study.
Yes.
Yeah, right. And so now that we have the four usual suspects, lined up.
Yeah.
Oh man, like you could just see domino, Joker at the triple. I mean, like it's perfect. It's like it's a setup right there.
And the other plus, it's almost like a Norman Rockwell painting when you see the shot of the stunned disbelief on the faces of the Jet fans after they make whatever selection they make. It's
Blair Thomas.
Another tight end. Oh, it's always a lot of fun. Those are the things that I find enjoyable. Well, we'll see. There's not as much speculation, it seems like, surrounding this draft, as you said. Maybe it's because you could throw an umbrella over about 20 years.
It is.
Well, would you say those guys aren't good, solid NFL pros, or are they? Is it because the talent?
No. What you'll hear from guys who really know the draft and have been around, 20, 25 years, 30 years. They say this is a really great draft if you're looking for starters into the second and third round.
Okay.
It's loaded with really good players. It's not loaded with the top end talent.
Yep.
Right.
You're getting a lot. Yeah, and so that's why this is a really boring draft. And why, there's so much focus on Shedeur. I mean, partly it's because he's Deion's kid, partly because he's a quarterback, and partly because, he's a good player. He's not a great one. But there's no drama to the other guy.
Right.
Like there's no star player. Okay, Abdul Carter's got some attitude problems and a foot problem, but he's the best. He's the highest level impact player in the who can walk right in and play. Right, assuming he's going to be able to walk right in and play. And Cam Ward is just the best quarterback on this. And look, the number of people who said he should be a second or third round pick, not just Shedeur, but the Cam Ward should be a second or third round pick. This just reminds me of just a gigantic overdraft. And the fact that Tennessee was doing everything it could. They did everything they could to try and trade this thing. They did everything. It. They bluffed until everybody's Lloyd Brunson's is in the ground, and he can tell. Or Dale Brunson's in the ground. He can tell. Come on, stop.
All right, so it's going to depend a lot on the ingenuity of front offices that are picking, especially past the third or fourth pick, and we'll see if the usual suspects do their thing, or maybe they rise to the occasion. Jason, always a pleasure. Where do people catch all your stuff, and how heavily involved in this post-draft coverage, and even while it's ongoing, will you be?
I will not be involved in the coverage this year. I'll be watching it. I'm going to try and put together a couple of articles afterwards. Because again, this is just, I'm so done with draft grades and the mock drafts. My brain has melted a long time.
I understand. 1,000%. Trust me.
Right. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. But you can find me at the 33rd team, and I do a lot of stuff during the regular season. That's really, and a lot of numbers analysis and, some deep dives into players and what they do. So That's where I get my joy out of it. You can always buy my books. I got plenty of them. There you go.
Yeah. Well, what happened with the movie? Is that still in the works?
Oh, we're in the. Oh, it's in the works. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
You know how hard it is to sell a movie, though, Defo?
I figured Scorsese was probably a call that you were actually ghosting because you were getting so many offers.
We had a lunch.
Nice.
So,
Nice, man. Beverly Hills Hotel?
Yes, Beverly Hills Hotel. Marty, with me and Marty sitting poolside.
That's where it all takes place, my friend. Right there in the outside courtyard there where the restaurant is. And it's you're hoping the other guy picks up the check. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm living the get shorty life. That's exactly what I'm doing.
You're a great American, Jason. We love you, man. And thanks so much for coming on the show with us today. It was great.
All right, guys. Be good. Take care.
All right. Thanks a lot. Jason Cole, the 33rd team. I was trying to get some writing samples, Lubie, because I had nothing. I hadn't participated at the Syracuse Daily Orange or any of this stuff. Didn't really pay that much attention to the idea that I may have to do something after college to generate some income. So I'm trying to get some writing samples, and I was in a bowling league. I had renewed my aspirations to be a pro bowler at the La Cienega Lanes. And I was on a team with a guy who was getting started. Naturally, a lot of young guys were out there getting their foot in the door in various enterprises and show business. And this guy told me he was working with Ed Asner and that he could get me an interview with Ed Asner. So Asner at the time, I believe, I don't think Roots had come out yet, or may have just been on coming on TV. Great, unbelievable, legendary piece of television. And Asner couldn't have been any nicer. And then I realized I couldn't afford to pick up the check, man. Thank God this guy had an account there at the Beverly Hills Hotel. I can't imagine what those cantaloupe balls were ever costing, even back then. They definitely would have busted my budget for the thing. And I did write an article that never went anywhere. And that couldn't have been a nicer guy, though. It was very, very cool. And as it turned out, didn't he become like a big political advocate and I thought he was on the right side of things, no? Ed Asner later in life?
I think so, yeah.
I remember sitting there and you know how you get that twitch? Like, what am I going to do when the check comes? Always awkward. Yeah, always an awkward moment. All right, Lubie, hopefully, we never even speculated. This is good because we never speculated what your man Chris Greer might do. Will he bungle the first-round pick, or is it, as Jason Cole described, it's somewhat nondescript, not necessarily bad, but the likelihood is you're going to get some kind of a decent player that's going to possibly start for you for a while, no matter who you get at 13.
Where they're drafting, this is a very offensive line, defensive line heavy draft, and a lot of teams may overdraft receiver, running back, and quarterback in the top 10. So they could have one of the top defensive linemen or offensive linemen that would normally be a top 5 pick sitting there at 13. I just hope he takes them, because a lot of the time he loves to draft guys that everyone has in the second round in the teens. So I hope he doesn't get in his own way. Talking about overthinking, he's the king. Yeah. I hope if Mason Graham from Michigan or one of these offensive linemen, the kid from Georgia, Bama, there's a kid from LSU. If one of those kids is there at 13, I hope they don't think about it. Just draft you had Armstead retire, so you need a left tackle, you need a right tackle, you need guards, you need defensive tackles. Like, look at the teams that are winning for once and go and get a big dude in the middle to help on either side of the ball, please. That's my hope. We'll see what the hell he does.
How hot was Donovan Mitchell last night at the end of that Heat game? My God.
Donovan
Mitchell and Damian Mitchell for the Heat actually was a big contributor in that ballgame. I think he had 18 points. Joni Mitchell had 3 points in the game. It's crazy, but the Heat down 0-2. All right. It's kind of crazy. Remember, he drafted like Michael Olowokandi. Who was that defensive back? Nobody could pronounce his name. Igwe Bike or something.
Igbenogany.
He was a kicker.
Igbenogany out of Auburn. who now I think starts for Washington and is actually good.
There you go. Yeah. It was coaching all along. Man, they got to, just gut the whole franchise. What are we talking about, Lubie?
I mean,
we're going to get out of here. Good luck with all your draft speculation. If you're betting on the draft, good luck to you too, because you need help. Hopefully it'll be enjoyable and spark enough controversy that we can make a whole show out of it tomorrow. So that'll be a lot of fun. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to Jason Cole for joining us. Dave Gurgles Gurgly. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
How did you pronounce that kid's name?
Igbenogany.
Igbenogany. So I wasn't that far off, Igwe BK. Wasn't he a kicker with the Buccaneers or something? Igwe BK? I think he was. Police kicker. It's 9/11.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.